All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Hello, hello, hello. Before we get started, I'm going to really quickly put in the chat and let you know verbally as well that we do have closed captions available. So if you if you would like to use the closed captioning mechanism, you can feel free to follow the instructions that I just placed in the chat. But we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for being here. My name is Karina Newsom. I am the Community Engagement Manager with Georgia Audubon, and this is our Birdability Accessible Virtual Field Trip. We host one of these virtual events once a month, usually on the second Saturday. And these virtual field trips are joined by usually myself or a Georgia Audubon representative in the state of Georgia, a representative from Birdability, who I'll introduce you to in just a moment, who we have on here with us today, and then two special guests from different parts of the country. And so on these virtual field trips, we are, of course, birding and enjoying the birds that we have in different parts of North America, but we're also highlighting people who experience accessibility challenges in the outdoors or have disabilities, and highlighting accessible trails in the different places where we live. And the reason why this is important is because birding is for everybody. And we want to make sure that everyone is able to learn about and enjoy birding in every possible way and share tips and ideas and information about accessibility when it comes to outdoor exploration and specifically when it comes to birding. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and allow our guests today, along with our Birdability representative, to introduce themselves. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Cassandra to introduce herself to all of you, let you know where she is and describe her experience in the outdoors.
Hi, my name is Cassandra Dean. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I have been diagnosed with fibromyalgia and Raynaud's disease. Those are two autoimmune disorders. And if you don't know much about autoimmune disorders, a lot of people say we look well, but we actually aren't. We are physically in pain at all times. And so when it comes to bird watching, we have to set limits for ourselves, because if we overdo it, we tend to be in pain and be in bed the next day. So I'm over here at Spring Creek Prairie Audubon Center, which is located 20 minutes from Lincoln, Nebraska. And this is one of my favorite spots to go birding. And it's also one of the accessible spots where I can go and just relax and enjoy my time here in Nebraska.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cassandra. We'll go ahead and pass it over to Michael.
Okay. I'm Michael Hurben. I'm in Bloomington, Minnesota. Lots of Canada geese making noise here. So I am birding at Highland Lake Park Reserve, which is a very accessible site that is important to me because it's only about a 10-minute walk from my house, which matters because I'm legally blind. I have my central vision, but I don't see in the periphery and I don't see in the dark. So I obviously don't drive, and it's nice to have a place that's nearby, because where we live in the Twin Cities here, there's not a lot of public transportation that's very easy for me to get to. So this place is really important to me, and it's a great place to go birding. And he and him for pronouns.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael. And we'll go ahead and pass it over to Virginia Rose, who is also our Birdability representative for this trip. So Virginia, take it away.
Thanks. First of all, I want to welcome two brand new Birdability captains. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Cassandra, so much for being with us today. I'm feeling like that crazy weatherman, right? Who's standing in the hurricane gale force winds like this. It's not hurricane gale force, but it's definitely raining pretty hard here now. Anyway, I'm Virginia Rose. I'm here at beautiful, usually beautiful Richard Moya Park. It's this beautiful, in fact, I think it's one of the oldest county parks in Austin. It's an old country grove, and it's got this wonderful Onion Creek River that's running through it, providing this great riparian habitat. It's a very accessible park. You see these perfectly wide, really flat sidewalks that run all the way through this park. And this park boasts as well one of the original iron pieces of the bridge that went across Lake Austin over 100 years ago. So anyway, and I'm also the founder of Birdability, and wanted to thank Georgia Audubon for having us on. Birdability started about two and a half years ago, and I just decided I wanted to make sure that birding was available to, well, this was the mission 2.5 years ago. It's definitely more since then, but 2.5 years ago, my mission was to make sure that people who had mobility challenges knew that they could bird. And you can see where it's gone in the last 2.5 years. So anyway, thank you, welcome. And also wanted to introduce, please, my very best birding buddy, Celeste, and the videographer. Thank you, Celeste. Back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Virginia. And I realized I didn't say where I was in the world. You know that I'm in Georgia, but I am in a city park called Grant Park, which is, again, owned by and run by the city of Atlanta. And it's actually the park in which Zoo Atlanta is located. It's a large park, and it's a quite accessible trail system that goes through the park. It is somewhat manicured, but there are lots of trees and lots of birds here where I am. And so very excited to explore this with you all here today. And I'll go ahead. Oh, my pronouns are she and her as well. Thank you so much for your patience. Michael has been seeing some really cool waterfowl where he is in Minnesota. And so, Michael, if you have any birds that you're seeing right now, I know that you were the last person to have some birds near your scope, so you can definitely go ahead and feel free to share what it is you're seeing.
Okay. Well, okay. We have actually a common merganser out there. It's hard for me to see, but there's a lot of hooded mergansers, and maybe is he right against the ice? Okay, well, anyway, we have a variety of waterfowl that come here. This lake is interesting because it's very shallow. It's only about 12 feet deep, and it has some good fishing in it. So the Division of Wildlife here, they put these aerators in the lake that pump air in, and so that keeps part of the lake open all winter. And so it's a magnet for waterfowl, especially this time of year when there's migration. So the rest of this area, we usually don't lose our ice until about the second week of April in the Twin Cities area. So this is a great place to see the early migrants. We've got redheads, ringnecks. There were some trumpeter swans here yesterday, but they're AWOL today, so we'll keep looking for them. And you never know what's going to show up here. So hopefully that's coming through.
Yes, we can see that very clearly, Michael. That's such a good shot.
Good. Thank you. Okay. And yeah, I think we'll look at these for a little while. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, so Virginia and I are just going to get out of the rain for a few minutes, and I'm going to probably just kill our video over. We're just trying to get to a dry spot. We're getting dumped on, so.
Oh no. Okay, sounds good.
Okay. So I was going to say we'll watch this lake for a little bit, and then I want to we'll take a walk and show you what the trails are like here, and we'll go up to a little prairie area where we have I don't know, maybe a 30% chance of finding a northern shrike that hangs out here in the winter. So see what we get.
That's an awesome shot. Right now, I'm actually, okay, this is very exciting. So right above me, and I've been trying to experiment with my digiscoping here, but there are some eastern bluebirds right above me. There's like a family of them, in fact, and I'm going to try to get them in my binoculars and show you. Give me 1 second. They're being really, when I find young bluebirds, they seem to always be having a phenomenal time. So I'm going to see if I can, they hardly sit still. And actually, they just all flew off. Oh, wait, here we go. Hold on 1 second. Here we go. That brilliant blue. Eastern bluebirds are a bird that has very beautiful blue coloration on its head and back, and then a nice chestnut color on its chest and a white belly. And they're about half the size of an American robin. So I'm going to see what I can do about getting this in the binoculars. Let's see here. Where'd you go? Oh, it blew up. Okay. As soon as you tell the world that you're looking at a bird, the bird decides to go away, which is always a really fun dynamic to do on virtual field trips. But Grant Park, where I am right now, has really awesome parking. So they've got a large parking lot that has handicap parking as well as lots of other parking spaces. And the handicap parking spots have a lot of room around them. They're larger than the non-handicap parking spots. And the trails here are paved, as I mentioned before. And so I'm going to flip my camera around. And the path is, I would say, around 6 feet wide. There is somewhat of an incline, but the incline doesn't seem to be really steep in most of these parts. And I'm going to continue exploring to see how steep it gets. But because this is a city park, in addition to having these wide sidewalks, there are also lots of benches that seem to be every about 1,000 feet or so, and we're actually coming upon a set of benches here along with the playground. So if you've got kids, there's somewhere for them to hang out as well. But city parks are oftentimes a really great place to go for birds. A lot of folks don't think of birds and they think of a lot of biodiversity when they think of city parks, but there's actually a lot to see. And oftentimes there are a lot of paved trails in city parks too. So a great place to check out and think about. Cassandra, would you mind describing a little more the place where you are? Because I was telling Cassandra earlier how fascinated I was with the ecosystem that she was in, because I'm here in Georgia. I've never seen anything quite like it. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about where you are, Cassandra.
Yeah, so Spring Creek Prairie is a Audubon Center, is one of the essential places where tall grass prairie is preserved. So as you can see, we have beautiful tall grass prairie here at the center, but also what's unique is we also have like wetland features. There's a little bit of water right there. And then we also have some trails that go into the woodlands area. So we have 3 different habitats here at Spring Creek Prairie Audubon that you can see different types of birds all year round. And then what's so great about it, sorry, we may not see much birds today. There's usually 235 bird species seen here at Spring Creek Prairie Audubon Center, but it is very cold. The high temperature is 42, and we're expecting rain if you can't see the rain cloud coming up over the horizon there. But the trails, right now I'm on the gravel trail, and there's like 4 miles of trails. Some of it is, of course, like this gravel trail. And as I get closer around the rest of the tall grass prairie, I'll show you the rest of the trail. But what else is significant about Spring Creek Prairie Audubon Center is that it was the cutoff point for the Nebraska City Fort Kearny cutoff of the Oregon Trail. So it has the original wagon ruts from the Oregon Trail as well, if you come out here and check those out as well. So
that's incredible, Cassandra. Thank you so much for sharing that. Virginia, I hope you all were able to find some dry spots to hang out. I'm so sorry that it's dumping on all of you right now. But Michael had mentioned earlier that in addition to the lake that he's on right now, there are also lots of, potentially a northern strike. So hopefully we'll be able to see that. But right now where I am, it's visually, I'm not seeing a lot of birds, but I'm hearing a lot of birds. And one of the loudest ones that you might be able to hear in my background are blue jays. And they make a lot of different, really unique sounds. But the sound that they've been making recently is the loud metal, I call it the squeaky gate creaking sound. So if you hear that loud kind of like rusty gate sound in the background, oops, hold on. See if they'll make it again. Of course, they're quiet when I'm quiet, and then they start screaming when you start talking. But they make a very loud, very distinct sound, and we've got lots of them here at the park.
So, Karina, Celeste and I are taking shelter at the very scenic restrooms that are here. Richard Moya, and we are being regaled with red-bellied woodpecker calls, a bunch of great-tailed grackles. What else are you hearing?
We had a whole rump of flock of yellow rumps.
We had a whole flock of yellow rumps going by, and a bunch of goldfinches. Those were Americans, right?
I didn't see them.
I think so.
Do you get other species of goldfinch there?
Yes, yes. Around this time of year, we get lessers and Americans, and so we always look for that sort of the whitish wing bar on the American that's a little more pronounced.
That's incredible. We are at the cusp of spring migration right now. And so if there's any time to get into looking at birds and watching birds, if you are not already a bird watcher, now is the time. And it can feel a little overwhelming when you see people who know all their birds, right? And you think there are literally hundreds of birds out here. How can you tell the difference? How do you know what's what? Start small. Start by identifying the birds that are in either your backyard, if you've got a backyard, or in the space where you live. Because there are some ones that you probably see on a regular basis that maybe you just don't know anything about. And for example, one of our really common ones here in the Southeast, and actually many parts of the United States, is the American robin, which I mentioned earlier. I'm going to go ahead and flip my camera around so you can see them. The American robin, there they are, oftentimes found on the ground when they're foraging or looking for food. Hopefully you can see them a little bit. They've got a really beautiful kind of orangey rust colored breast and a dark brown set of wings and back and head, and around their eyes, they've got a broken white eye ring. Which is one of kind of their distinguishing field marks. Robins are one of those ones that if they're in the right light, you can think they're like 3 different kinds of birds. If you can't see all their colors, but that broken eye ring is actually what's going to be a really big kind of field hint for you. Let's see if I can get a better view of one over here. And they are in the family with, let's see here, thrushes. And thrushes are a group of birds that they look different, you know, depending on the species, but some of the things that they do kind of indicate to you that they're thrushes. They have a very kind of forward looking movement when they walk. They do spend a lot of time on the ground, and robins in particular will spend a lot of time looking for worms and other kind of invertebrate, you know, insects on the ground, pulling worms out of the ground. And so you oftentimes will see them in usually sometimes large groups, especially during migration. They can get into groups, you know, of hundreds of American robins. So always a nice bird to see. Let me flip us around here. If anyone's seeing a bird, you can definitely feel free to jump in. But Virginia, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about the resources. Wait a second, I'm so sorry. Dark-eyed junco. There's a dark-eyed junco that just flew over me, which is one of our winter birds. I'll get right back to you, Virginia, in just a second, but it just flew over me, and I haven't seen them super often this year, so that was exciting.
I haven't either. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can get it in the, oh, okay, y'all bear with me. 1 second, it's on the ground. If I get this, I'm gonna be so excited. Okay, let's give it a try. That bird right there that's kind of on the ground, ducking down a little bit, that's a dark-eyed junco. You can't quite see the field marks too well, but if you were to see one up close and it's going in and out of focus, when they fly, they've got white outer tail feathers, which is usually like the first sign, okay, that's a dark-eyed junco. And the rest of their tail is like a dark gray black, along with the wings and head. They've got a white colored belly and usually a light colored bill, usually around like a pinkish color. And size-wise, they're about the size of like a sparrow. So fairly small birds, but one that is one that we would usually see in the winter months where I am in Georgia and across the Southeast. And in the summer and spring, they leave us and go further north to breed way, way, way up in North America. So that is the dark-eyed junco. I'm very grateful to the junco for sitting still for just a second, long enough for you all to see a little blurry image of them. But Virginia, sorry, would you mind describing some of the resources that Birdability has to offer folks, number one, who are looking or interested in creating or crafting or hosting accessible trips, as well as for people who may have disabilities who are interested in going birding.
Oh.
Whoops. I think we may have lost Virginia for a second. Hopefully she'll be able to pop back in. Doing Zoom or anything on your phone when it's wet outside can be a bit of a hassle. So we'll let her come back in. Michael, I see you're unmuted.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so we're going to take a walk up to where we might find the shrike, and I just wanted to kind of show how nice this park is. I've been kind of showing how nice wide paved trails we have here. We have a picnic area and bathrooms that are accessible, and you can kind of see the lake in the background where we were down further on the trail there. So this is really a nice place. Well, you know, the thing I wanted to highlight about here is, you know, you're kind of at the mercy of the weather too. If you come here in the summer, you will have miles and miles of paved, accessible trails. But in the winter, they keep some of them clear of the snow, and then others not so much. And so it definitely reduces the accessibility to place in the winter. And you know, winter here means that can mean anything from October to May. So we're lucky right now. You can see the piles of snow that haven't melted yet from the parking lots, but it's actually, you can see pretty clear. And you know, we could have 2 feet of snow right now, but luckily we don't.
Michael, can you say the name of the park where you are again? One of the panel or one of the attendees.
Oh yeah, it's
where you are.
Yeah, it's called Highland, but it's spelled Hyland, Highland Park Lake Preserve, Bloomington. It's the so we're in Hennepin County, which is the largest county in Minnesota in terms of population. And so, you know, there's a lot of people here. This place gets birded a lot. I think it's like the #6 hotspot in eBird for the county, which is pretty good. It's like 212 species have been seen in this park. So, you know, it's in the middle of a suburban area, so it gets a lot of use. As we're walking here, we'll get closer. There's actually, you wouldn't think it when you see all of this dry grass, but there's people that are still cross-country skiing here right now because they actually make, they have trails for that, and they artificially make snow in the fall so that it gets really, really deep. And so everything else is melted, but there's still cross-country skiing going on here. So it's an interesting place.
Okay, we're back. Virginia's back.
Hi, Virginia. I see someone has their hand. Someone has their hand raised, so I just want you to know that I see you. We're going to come back to your question in just a second, but we're going to go ahead and let Virginia, who has rejoined us, thank you so much, Virginia, to describe a little bit about Birdability and the resources that Birdability offers to folks who want to lead accessible trips, as well as people who may experience accessibility challenges, and the resources that you all have to offer in those realms.
Okay, super. Well, thank you so much for asking. I would say that maybe one of the greatest things about Birdability is our Birdability Captains resources. Over the last 2.5 years, as people have found out about Birdability, they've reached out primarily to me over the last 2.5 years. And I had just these wonderful, you know, hour-long conversations with these remarkable people who were drawn to the program and to the movement, and have been willing to pretty much carry the torch in their part of the country. And we have, I think, 40 new Birdability, not new, but 40 total Birdability captains. I think we're representing maybe 22 states in the US. We also have a new Birdability captain in South Africa and one in Argentina. And we have, I think, 2 in Canada, if I'm not mistaken. So I would say far and away our greatest resources are going to be these Birdability captains who are just manning the helm all over the place, and thank goodness. And then the other resources that you can find on the website would be, first of all, the access considerations. And this began with a list of, well, as the name implies, when I would go to a park, all of the things that I'm looking for, there were 9 things on that list. I think that's grown now to 11 or 12 different things. Thankfully, other people with other different kinds of accessibility challenges have chimed in to give us a much broader range of access challenges. So thank you everybody for that. The access considerations were so helpful to people who wanted to make parks accessible, but just didn't even know where to begin. So that information is continuing to evolve as we learn more and more about what truly is and isn't accessible. So I would invite 2 things. I would invite people to find those accessible sites and go ahead and pin them on the Birdability map so that other people in the country who have access challenges can just find where they are and be able to have a wonderful birding experience. I would also say there's another resource that has to do with steps people can take to implement birdability in their part of the woods. And I just made, basically I just made a list of all of the ways in which I could find people who had mobility challenges. And like I said, that was my initial mission. And so the first, I would say 10 steps focus on mobility issues. And as the birdability idea grew, I would wake up every morning with a new application. So one morning I'd wake up and I'm like, okay, we've got to make sure and we get and address all the veterans in our country. And then the next morning, okay, got to make sure we have birdability at handicapped kids camps all over the country. And then the next morning I'd wake up and say, we have to make sure all the rehabilitation therapists, occupational and physical, know about birdability programming so that they can help get ornithological therapy going at their various facilities. So, I mean, I think you can see how excited I get about it, and I'll stop talking now.
No, that's incredible, Virginia. Thank you so much. So as you can see, there are so many resources, and Birdability's website, which is birdability.org, and that's birdability.org, has all the resources that Virginia was talking about. And one of my favorites is that map that Virginia mentioned, which is essentially a GIS or Geographic Information Systems map, which essentially means it's interactive. So you go to the map and you select where you are in the world, and it'll automatically find that for you if you have your GPS on. And once you finish exploring at a place, whether it's a trail or it's a park, you can answer a few questions. It takes about 3 minutes about the accessibility of the location, and it pings it to that geographic spot. So the next time someone is looking for places that might be accessible for them, if they experience accessibility challenges, they can read your review of the place and say, yes, this place is a place that I can go that is accessible for me, or no, it's not. Information about accessibility or a lack of accessibility are both important. And so the Birdability map is one of my favorite elements of Birdability's work. And we encourage everybody to fill those maps out wherever you go, because it's important that we have information and share information about the accessibility of spaces all over the country and all over the world. Virginia, I see that you're unmuted.
Yeah, you want to tell?
You go.
Virginia wanted to chime in there that there are over 400 sites already pinned on that accessibility map. And so it's a great resource.
So we have a black chickadee calling here.
Can I chime in for a bit?
Absolutely.
Okay, so here at Spring Creek Prairie, I just wanted to point out, like, the first part of the trail is the gravel 7-foot ride, but when you get started to go into the prairie itself, it turns into grass, because of course we don't want to ruin the tall grass prairie. So there is some areas on the trail where you do have to go downhill and then go back up a hill on a slope, because the rolling prairie hills, So if you don't feel comfortable going that far, just as me, for my autoimmune disease, I have to make sure that if I'm going to go down there, that I know I'm going to be able to come back up down the hill and up the hill. So just know how you're feeling for the day, and then just take it with a grain of salt about as far as how far you want to go into the prairie here at Spring Creek Prairie Audubon Center.
Thank you so much, Cassandra, for that description. Michael, I saw that you were unmuted as well.
Yeah, we'll see if he comes back. it's just we had a black-capped chickadee calling here, which I think for everybody in the South, maybe you don't hear those very often, and I know the voice is a little bit different, but we're starting to see more stuff overhead too. We just had a common merganser fly over, but we're not going to capture that with the scope, unfortunately.
That's awesome. It has been so long. Yeah, down here in the South, the chickadees that we tend to have are the Carolina chickadees,
right?
Which
right.
sound, very similar, but there's just like a slight difference, and I
right.
miss that difference. So hopefully you'll get a chance to hear it again, and we'll all be able to
okay.
enjoy it with you. And one of the things that Michael mentioned, and Cassandra also alluded to, was that there can be kind of seasonal differences in accessibility of a place. And so if you're dealing with a location that has a lot of dirt trails, even if it's hard packed, if you're in a season where it's very rainy, or maybe it's getting flooded if you're on the coast, right? And trails that once were accessible no longer are, because there might be really muddy, sinky spots or places where there's lots of standing water. And so if you notice that at a public park or in an outdoor location that you frequent, it can be really good to kind of advocate to the people who run the park, whether it's the city or if it's privately owned possibly, about addressing this seasonal issue in accessibility. Or if there's just like a year-round accessibility issue, it's also important to address that. In Virginia, I was wondering if you could also, I've been very encouraged by your kind of like easy to understand way of advocating for accessibility in spaces, because I think it can seem maybe out of reach to be an effective advocate to people who run parks. So if you could share maybe just a little bit about what you know and have experienced in the advocacy realm, that would be awesome.
Oh, sure. I think a lot of it may have come from my folks who said that I myself am largely responsible for whatever success I experience as a person who's disabled asking for improvements. And so I think that's just a really important thing to remember, that you bring with you your attitude and your cheerfulness and your can-do spirit. And I love to think of it as something you can hand off to whomever you're talking to. And particularly when I go to a birding site, the first thing I do is go back to, or after I've seen the site, then I go back to the visitor center immediately. And I find out who are the important people who happen to be at the visitor center to talk to. And I engage them and just first of all, tell them all the wonderful things that are accessible about their site. And I list for them specifically the things that they have done properly that I appreciate so very much. And then I tell them things like, and I really would love to get this birding site on the Birdability map. And I show it to them so they don't think I've dreamt it up. And then I say, I really would love to get your site on the map, but I can't do it yet until, I don't like to start with more than 3 things. I can't do it yet because these 3 things we need to find a way to work on. And then I immediately start handing them solutions. So the reason that I can do that is because I've been around for 47 years in a wheelchair. So I kind of have some ideas about what they can do and who they can go to in order to get help. So I would just say, make sure you show up with a cheerful spirit, and make sure you show up with solutions, and make sure that you are inspiring them. So there's no place for contempt. There's no place for irritation. The whole idea is to leave them more inspired than when you first showed up.
That's awesome, Virginia. Thank you so much. And one of the awesome things about the Birdability website is that there are resources on that website to let you know, like if you are someone who maybe doesn't understand exactly what the solution would be, what do I have to think about to make, say, a bathroom accessible at an outdoor at an outdoor recreation location. There is information on the Birdability website that allows you to have some of that solution information to offer that Virginia was talking about when you're making recommendations to folks. So we are extremely grateful for the wealth of resources that birdability.org offers, and we encourage you to go ahead and check it out. It looks like Michael is back. Okay, awesome. So right now, I want to be quiet.
I just want to point out, like, I just found some birds red wing blackbirds here. They're all sitting down eating breakfast. I don't have a digiscope to point towards them, but of course, you know, they have the red on the shoulder part of their wing with a little bit of that yellow. And then pretty much they're black. Oh, see if one's flying off. But yeah, they're enjoying their breakfast. They're not even hearing me come up to them. Yeah, do you guys see that?
Yes.
Oh, and you can hear them too. Can you hear them?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Now they're gonna fly off.
That's incredible. We would love our red-winged blackbirds here. And I always say that, you know, we got to advocate for the blackbirds because folks tend to have, not everyone, definitely not the people on this call, but sometimes folks hate on blackbirds, but blackbirds are phenomenal, especially red-winged blackbirds. So it's always so beautiful to be able to hear their gorgeous call. Right now, I'm going to see if you can hear what I'm hearing. So I'm going to try the trick where the birds don't realize I've stopped talking. So I don't know if you can hear in the background, there's kind of a, I'll mimic it for you. It's kind of like a very high pitch. There are northern cardinals. Northern cardinals calling in the background, which are in the Southeast and other parts of the country, pretty common birds. And folks tend to, especially in the East, very common birds. Because they're so common, folks are like, oh, it's just a cardinal, right? But they are a bright red bird, literally red, all over for the males, and the females have a little bit of red and brown all over their feathers. And males have a black kind of goatee, I guess you could say, around their red bill as well. Brilliant, brilliant birds. And here in the Southeast and the Eastern US, where people see them all the time, it's just kind of like, oh, that's just a cardinal. But I always have to say, we never say just about any bird, because every bird, no matter how common, has incredible things that we don't even know about them yet, and are capable of all kinds of incredible feats. And I saw a really funny comic recently where a northern cardinal was somewhere in the Eastern United States, and people were like, oh, that's just a cardinal. So it flew to the West, where people were absolutely amazed by it because they hadn't seen it before. So appreciate your cardinals. Michael, I see that you're unmuted. Have you got something over there?
Yeah, because speaking of cardinals, there's one right here singing its head off. I don't know if I haven't seen it yet, but I can hear it. Let me be quiet and see if you can hear it. Did you get that at all?
Yes, it came through. It came through. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's our sure sign of spring here. Even when there's snow on the ground and it's really cold, the male cardinals will start singing. There he is. There he is. We'll see if we can scope him, but you know how birds are. So I'll unmute until oh, he just left. So, no, there he is. We'll work on it. I'll shout if we get him.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah.
Virginia and I have been watching a northern flicker. We left the scope in the car because of the rain, unfortunately, but a beautiful northern flicker. And then we've also had a red-bellied woodpecker doing that kind of chuckle call that they do. And we've got eastern bluebirds in the trees here.
And robins.
Oh, and American robins and lots of great-tailed grackles. So we've got a good variety of birds despite the rain, just kind of hard to show them to you.
That's awesome. At the same time that you said you were seeing northern flickers, I had woodpeckers calling around me. I had a red-bellied woodpecker, which makes kind of like I keep setting myself up to mimic these sounds, and I'm really not that good at it, but they kind of sound like, that's kind of what they sound like. If I had to, that's my best mimic of them. But woodpeckers, wherever you are in the country, are a really phenomenal bird to get into. Because they can become really easy to recognize, whether it's auditorily or visually. Oh, okay, I've got a blue jay. And I shouldn't have said that because now it's going to know that I've got a blue jay. But hold on one second. I'm going to see if I can get it in my binoculars for you. A brilliant, let me lower my voice so that it doesn't know that I'm looking at it. Okay. Oh, it just flew off. Wait. Oh, okay. So the blue jay is right there in the center of my binocular screen. It's a little fuzzy, but they have a really brilliant shades of blue all over their body. And they've got a black kind of like chin strap beard looking series of patterns on their face. And they're pretty large. They're bigger than American robins. And blue jays are another species that are fairly common in the eastern United States. Let's see if I can get a little bit closer. Fairly common in the eastern US, not so much in the West. And they're very, very loud, very charismatic. They're in a family of birds called Corvidae, which includes crows and ravens and magpies. And they are, in my opinion, they're fascinating when it comes to their cognition. They're really good at picking up on spatial patterns, on auditory patterns. They can mimic sounds really well. So they'll mimic the sounds of other birds. They even will mimic the sounds of raptors and birds of prey as a mechanism to manipulate their environment. So many times folks I know have seen blue jays that have been around feeders with lots of songbirds. And the blue jay will mimic the sound of a red-shouldered hawk. For some reason, they go for the red-shouldered hawk pretty often where I am. And it scares away all the birds, the smaller songbirds, and the blue jay flies in and eats all the seeds. So very, very interesting birds. And they know how to, I like to say they know how to get what they want by using their mimicry and really cool behaviors to influence. Oh, y'all, I'm sorry. I'm having a stellar moment right now. Okay, so speaking of woodpeckers, I think I have a sapsucker. Y'all, yellow-bellied sapsucker. Hold on one second. I'm going to turn it around and see if I can get it in my binoculars for you. Okay, so you see the head of that bird right there? Again, it's a little fuzzy, I think, but that is a yellow-bellied sapsucker. I'm going to hold really still and hope that it makes its way around the other side of the tree. Oh, yes. This is really cool. It is definitely a little fuzzy, but hopefully it comes around the other side. Yellow-bellied sapsuckers are a species of woodpecker. Oh, hold on. It's moving up towards the middle of the tree here. They're a species of woodpecker that have some really unique behaviors when it comes to oh, you can actually see, okay, this is really cool. When it comes to how they get food. So they're called sapsuckers because they actually use the sap in living trees. Oftentimes when you see woodpeckers, they're like on dead trees filling holes, but sapsuckers use living trees. And if you've ever seen a tree that has little holes kind of in a row, that's the work of a sapsucker. And then this tree sap will seep out of the tree from those holes, and those woodpeckers will use it. And let me see if I can, still here. Let me see if I can get a good view of it. Oh, this is so cool, y'all. This is so cool. Okay, it's flying. Okay, we're gonna give this one more try. I'm gonna turn you around again and put you in my binoculars. You see it? Yellow-bellied sapsucker, right there. That's awesome. So physically, they're about the size of, let's see, a little bit smaller than a robin. They've got a lot of black and white striping on them, along with some reddish and yellowish colors on their head. And look, you can see them banging on the wood there. That is cool. And I'm going to show you, I think there are some examples of the work they do on trees, those holes I told you about that they seep sap out of. So I'm going to show you an example of that in just a second. But yellow-bellied sapsuckers are just an absolutely beautiful species that you can find here in Georgia. Do you all get them, Virginia, where you are?
We have them as a winter bird.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah. So whether it's seasonal or more year-round, these birds are absolutely incredible. Okay, so now, real quick, we've got some Q&A questions, which I'll get to in just a second, but let me show you what yellow-bellied sapsuckers do. So this is a tree that yellow-bellied sapsuckers have definitely visited. So you see these holes that are like basically in a line, right? All these, that's the work of the Yellow-Bellied Sapsucker, and tree sap will, look at that, will seep out of these holes. And so if you ever see this pattern, you know exactly who is responsible. Oh, that's just so cool, y'all. Birds aren't super cooperative when it comes to scoping them sometimes. So this was really awesome that we were able to see that. We've got some questions in the Q&A, so I'm gonna open it up really quickly. So someone named Tiffany, this is a question for Cassandra. She said, hi, Cassandra, I live in Atlanta, but haven't seen blue jays or bluebirds. Where should I look for them? Trees, bushes, etc. Thanks. I'm actually in Atlanta, so I can answer that for you, Tiffany. So blue jays they're pretty versatile as far as where you can find them. They love kind of edge habitat, which means where forest meets a different kind of ecosystem, usually like an urban spot. So you'll find if you have like forest or lots of trees in the middle of a city, oftentimes you will find blue jays in those kinds of places. And when it comes to eastern bluebirds, which are about a third approximately of the size of a blue jay, areas where there's a lot of open space, such as like baseball fields even, or big old grassy areas where there are some trees for them to perch on. They love those kind of open areas. So if you're familiar with Piedmont Park, that's a great place to see eastern bluebirds in the open spaces, as well as blue jays, actually, Tiffany. So that's a really good question.
I just want to pipe in there too. Just also, eastern bluebirds is one of those. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Bluebird Project, where parks are in the building of bluebird nests for these because they're on the decline. So if you go to a park and see an eastern bluebird or a mountain bluebird nest, you're sure to go and find some bluebirds flying around there too.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. We had a request if Michael and Cassandra could turn their cameras around so we can see their wonderful faces. When you're talking.
Oh, okay.
And then of course you can flip it.
I'm just going to show some of our boxes here.
Cool.
So yeah, there's boxes that are put out here for the bluebirds, and not just the bluebirds use them. They're not quite here yet. They'll be here any day. But tree swallows really like to use these also. Here's another one. And yeah, so this park, it's a multi-use area, and you've got everything you can imagine going on here: cross-country skiing and a lot of bicycling and jogging and just hiking and birding. So, but it really is a great. They really take care of the birds here too. So I just wanted to show you, and then I'll switch over. So this is the area. Of course, we're in the same park where the lake was. We only walked a couple hundred meters maybe. And this is kind of an open savanna. You can see how it's very sparse with trees and there's no leaves on them. This is where the shrike, if he was going to be around, would often be, and he would just be perched up on top of one of these small trees, and just real easy to see. For me with my eyesight issues, he's not a hard bird because all I've got to do is scan the horizon and look for a little clump.
I was messing with
And yeah, actually right now there's a red-shouldered hawk calling in the distance. I can see it. I don't know if you can hear that. No, he just stopped. There he goes. Nope, he just stopped. Yeah, I think it's maybe a little bit too faint, but we have a red-shouldered hawk. There he goes.
I just
you guys hear that?
Point out that right now in front of me is a cardinal, a male cardinal in the treetop right there, just being its beautiful red self. Obviously up there. And then originally I did see some downy woodpeckers pecking at the woods, at the trees. So that was pretty awesome as well.
That's cool. Woodpeckers for the win. Okay, right now above me, I've got a tufted tip mouse that I think might be soliciting attention from a mate. So let me see if I can get in the binoculars without it putting you directly in line with the sun, because that would not be fun to look at. Let's give it a whirl. Okay, turn you around real quick. They're very backlit. And actually, they just flew off. Okay, Tufted Tip Mice are one of my favorite birds. They make such a wide variety of sounds that even after years of watching Tufted Tip Mice can confuse me on a good day. But very cool birds. They're gray in color. They're similar in shape to a cardinal because they've got, so that call, it's Tufted Tip Mouse. They've got a nice crest, just like a cardinal does, but they're all gray and they're about, maybe a third smaller than a cardinal, 30% smaller than a cardinal. But they're very charismatic birds, very fun to witness flying around. And you can find them in lots of urban environments as well, just like cardinals and just like blue jays. So always a pleasant thing to see. Michael, I was wondering if you might be able to tell us a little bit about, because I know you blog, you have an online blog that talks about your birding experiences. And so if you want to real quick tell us a little bit about that, and the work you do on that platform. Boop. Michael, can you hear me?
Hello.
There we go. Okay, perfect.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So it's legallyblindbirding.net, and it isn't just about the ice.
Oop, I think you hit some spotty service, Michael.
Oh, okay. Not surprising.
We can hear you now, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll try a third time. So,
sorry, thank you.
Yeah, legallyblindbirding.net, and I just try to talk about what a lot of things related to eyesight and how challenging that can be, and anything else related to birding. So, yeah, did you guys hear that red-shouldered hawk when it came through?
It got pretty loud where I was, so I couldn't really hear what was coming through the
Okay,
phone.
all right. Yeah, I'm hoping he comes back. So, okay.
I think you're in like
too, and let's probably move. Yeah.
It's always the
Okay, we're gonna
with,
try moving.
Yeah, zooming outside.
Yeah, we're gonna try moving to a different spot.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Freya, thank you so much for putting that in the chat. So Birdability that I mentioned earlier, the website is birdability.org, and Freya just put that in the chat. And then Michael's blog, she also put the link in the chat, legallyblindbirding.net. And so I would encourage you to check those out, because one of the interesting things is that a lot of times, because birds, are both beautiful to look at and beautiful to listen to, maybe people don't realize that they can go birding as a person with low vision or who is blind, but you absolutely can go birding. And Freya, who's on the webinar here, actually has done some really cool interviews with friends of hers and friends of ours, I guess now, who are blind and also go birding. And there are lots of really unique and creative ways to do that. So birding is definitely for everybody. So before we wrap up, if there are any questions that anyone has, you can definitely feel free to throw them in the chat. But really quickly, if we could go back around and just say where we are again in the world and the name of the park or birding location where you're located, before we go, just to reorient people as to who's represented today. So again, my name is Karina Newsom. I'm the Community Engagement Manager with Georgia Audubon, and I'm located in Atlanta, Georgia at Grant Park, which is a city-owned park, the same park actually that Zoo Atlanta is located on. So if you know where that is, you'll be able to find Grant Park with no problem. And there is fully paved trails all throughout the park and lots of really cool birds. Today we saw things and heard birds like northern cardinals, eastern bluebirds, yellow-bellied sapsuckers, red-bellied woodpeckers, all kinds of birds to see, even in the middle of a bustling city like Atlanta. So I definitely encourage you to check out this park. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Cassandra to tell us again a little bit about where she is located, unless she dropped out a little bit. She might have dropped out. Michael, if you want to jump in and describe again where you are in the world?
Yep. Okay, I'm in specifically Bloomington, Minnesota, which is one of the southern suburbs of the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, Hennepin County. And this is called Highland Lake Park Reserve. It's a really big suburban park that gets a lot of use, and it has all different kinds of habitat, lakes and ponds. We have nesting osprey. We get crazy things like Henslow sparrows in the spring, or actually in the late spring, early summer, which are really wonderful because they're a hard bird. And yeah, we get the woodcocks are here right now, actually in the evening doing their funny little flights. So yeah, it's a great place in the middle of a kind of a big suburb, and it's a very accessible place that has a lot of paved trails I've been trying to show, and you know, there's a lot of grass trails and other places that aren't quite as welcoming, but the amount of paved and accessible trails here is just phenomenal.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Michael. Virginia, if you want to go ahead and remind us again where you are.
Sure. So just a reminder, I'm at Richard Moya, one of the oldest county parks in Austin, Texas. The fabulous, very this fairly large, I'm sorry, I don't know the exact acreage, but you could bird here for at least 3 or 4 hours and be, you know, perfectly entertained. There's an accessible parking lot. There's an accessible bathroom. There are benches everywhere. It's just beautiful. I recommend it. If you come here, please call me first. I'll meet you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Virginia. And it looks like we might have lost Cassandra, but Cassandra is in Nebraska at a very beautiful prairie. A prairie that I'm not familiar with prairies at all. This is the first time that I'd ever seen it. It's absolutely awesome. We will be airing this on Facebook at 1 p.m. and I'll have the name of the exact prairie where she's located for you all. So if you are in that area, you can go ahead and visit. And again, all of the locations that we described today are places that have really good accessibility in a variety of capacities, whether it's parking, whether it's the trail itself, the incline. And we encourage you to check out birdability.org to learn about accessibility considerations and to participate in making birding accessible for everybody. And so with that, I would like to thank you all for coming, and definitely support the work of Birdability by going to their website, but also following them on social media at Birdability on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And definitely feel free, if you are in the Georgia or Atlanta area, to they're doing Zumba out here right now, so it's getting a little loud. But if you're in the Georgia or Atlanta area, feel free to check out Georgia Audubon on our website or on our social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Georgia Audubon, and learn about the different field trips that we offer here in the state and in the city of Atlanta, and learn more about the birds that are in the Southeast United States. And I just saw in the chat that Freya said that Cassandra was at Spring Creek Prairie Creek Audubon Center in Nebraska. So definitely feel free to check that place out if you are in her area. And so with that, I want to thank our guests today, Michael, Cassandra, and Virginia, for joining us. Sorry the weather was so wet and mucky out there, Virginia, but it was absolutely wonderful to learn about the birds that are in your region. And we look forward to seeing you all again next month for our Birdability virtual accessible field trip that'll be taking place on the second Saturday of April. So I hope you all enjoy your day, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.